Welcome to episode 94 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, a TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Hello, that's me.
That's you.
It is. I've mentioned kind of right before we started here, but Melissa's camera is being a little funky. That being said, Melissa, how was your week?
It's been good. Wish I knew how to solve the internet problem, but I can't see it. I don't know if this is news to you.
It's like
you can't
Jack and the Beanstalk thing.
What?
You're like super thin.
I'm super thin?
It's cropped.
Oh, finally.
In so thin that you can just see like a small
like
portion.
I'm peeking through the crack in a door?
Yeah. Creeper.
Oh, I can't see my internet waves. I can't tell when they are small.
It happens.
You look fine to me, so I have no other way of checking them.
It works on Skype. Like I can see you totally fine on Skype, but I don't know why it just won't work in OBS. Besides that, though, how's your week been?
It's been good. I went to my sister-in-law's birthday party yesterday. We ate a bunch of cheesecake. We played Mad Libs. We watched my niece run around. It was a Golden Girls themed party because that's her favorite show. And my niece is 3 and she's trying to teach her their names. We're like, okay, who are the Golden Girls? What are all their names? And she's pointing to like these party decorations. And she's like, we have Sophia.
We have Gold Bond, Goldfinger.
We have Sophia. We have Dorothy. We have Blanche. We have Snow White. We're like, Rose. That one's Rose. Snow White's also good. Her name is Rose.
Good stuff. That sounds fun. I had the worst Burger King I've ever had in my life last night.
What did you order?
The order was fairly standard. I just had like a double bacon cheeseburger and fries. But I tried to order pizza yesterday. Use the app. Everything's fine. Put in my order. It says, great, we got it. We're starting it. We're doing our thing. 10 minutes in, they're like, hey, phone call. We're not actually doing delivery right now. I was like, damn, all right, cancel that. So then I went on to
You gotta elect
Grubhub.
a new Domino's commissioner in your neighborhood.
I wish I could. Pizza Lord is powerless right now.
You're a figurehead only.
Yeah. So I went on to Grubhub.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm just going to get something like Burger King. I want a milkshake, all of that stuff. So I put my order in.
Are their milkshakes good?
Standard fast food milkshake.
Yeah. I don't think I've had one. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention a Burger King milkshake.
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, like, it's like, if you want a milkshake, it's an option.
Yes.
But it's not like, this is the destination.
Yeah, it ain't a Sonic.
Yeah. So I think that's like the closest thing that has milkshakes near me. And so I was like, all right, I kind of want a milkshake. So I put my order in. My driver gets to the Burger King and texts me, hey, their shake machine is broken.
Oh.
And then she says, yeah, and they want you to call them for some reason. And I was just like, I don't know what that means. At the same time, my phone rings. So I was like, all right, this is probably them. And I pick it up, and it's Grubhub support. And they're like, hey, there's a issue with your order. Supposedly, the shake machine is broken. Do you want to replace that or just get a refund for that one item? I was like, all right, let's do the refund. And that's what we did. And then I let my driver know. I was like, all right, I just got off the phone with Grubhub. They're refunding me everything should be good to go. And then a couple minutes later, I get yet another call. Like, okay. So I pick it up, and it's a different person. It's not my driver. It's not the Grubhub support. It's someone else. And they're like, hey, we're calling about your Grubhub order. Apparently Burger King wants you to call them. I was just like,
Burger King is looking for you.
Yeah. Like, that's weird, but sure, I'll do it. So we hang up, and I try calling the number that's in the app. Yeah. And apparently that's not the right one, because it's not Burger King's number. It was, I guess, my driver's number. But it was the same person that I just talked to. And I was like, wrong number, I guess. I was trying to call Burger King.
Did you just hand the phone to Burger King?
I think the person that picked up that phone that time was my driver's boyfriend. I don't know why he would be in the car, but my driver was a woman, like the one who was like delivering the food. But this was a guy that was answering. So he was like, "Yeah, I think you can find their number online." I was like, "Okay, this is ridiculous, but sure." So I finally call Burger King. They're like, "Hey, our shake machine is broken. Do you want to replace it?" And I was like, "No, I already talked to Grubhub. They're refunding me for that one thing." And they're like, well, do you want the rest of your stuff? It's like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Like, they only refunded me for that shake. And they're like, all right, cool, we'll get your stuff. So my driver delivers it, and they deliver it, and it's cold.
Of course.
Like, my burger was cold, my fries were cold. I was just like, okay, I don't know. I'm gonna sit here and eat my sad burger.
Well, I guess now you know, for next time you put in a Grubhub order, you make the note that says, if the shake machine is down, forget it.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's been my weekend, though. Oh, and then this morning, I go to make myself a smoothie, and the yogurt that I use is already opened. There's like a hole in the thing. So I'm like, well,
no hole
yogurt
in it?
Yeah. I cannot.
It's like
eat
somebody picked it up and jammed their thumb through the foil?
No. It was like, I mean, it was still sealed except like a part in the back. So it was just like, the seal is broken. I guess the glue
this is
didn't
poison
hold.
Yogurt.
I was just like, I'm not gonna eat it. So my weekend has
Poor
been
Kyle.
Food ails all weekend. It's been terrible. But what are we actually here to talk about this week, Melissa?
We are actually here to talk about the Wes Anderson film Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom, indeed. Melissa, this was your pitch.
Yeah.
You were. This is kind of our Valentine's Day.
Yeah, this episode will be coming out on February 12th. And so I pitched a couple different romantic things, and I included this one because I had brought this up on a recent Patreon bonus episode, and you had not seen it.
No, siree.
Which is understandable. I don't think this is quite in the realm of classics quite yet, but it's a good, solid film, and I thought you might enjoy it. So here we are. Yeah.
So I picked this one because I remember when it first came out, and I kind of remember the commercials and the previews and stuff like that. And it's a Wes Anderson film, so it has like a very unique style. Like he had, like, you see a Wes Anderson film, and it's like, yes, I know who
like,
made
you know,
that
from
film.
one screenshot, it's him. And I don't know if there's another director quite like that.
Yeah. So I remember seeing it and being like, that looks kind of cool, actually. It's not something I might typically go to, but it was like, it looks interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hadn't seen this, and you pitched it, and I was like, I kind of want to do that one. Let's knock that one off of my list. Where did you first watch this? How did you find this?
I think a friend brought it over. I've seen this a couple times. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I like it. Yeah, I think it's just always been, I didn't see it in theaters either. Somebody rented it and brought it to me.
Gotcha. Cool. They were like, here, I bestow you this movie.
One time, me and an old boyfriend made a blanket fort, and we were going to sit in the blanket fort and watch a movie on Netflix on his laptop. And I'm like, we have to find the perfect blanket fort movie. And he's like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, I don't know either, but I'll know it when I see it. So I'm scrolling through Netflix. It takes like 10 minutes. And finally, I'm like, Moonrise Kingdom. That's it. The blanket fort movie.
He didn't have a list of his top 10 favorite blanket fort movies?
Right?
No wonder it didn't work out. Cool. Yeah, I ended up liking this a lot.
Good.
This was very different from what I expected based off of what you pitched. Not that you pitched it wrong, but since this is our Valentine's Day stuff, I was kind of expecting more romance than there was. Don't get me wrong. This can be classified as a romance story.
Yes.
I just went in not knowing what to expect, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, it has romance. Some other things in there too I was not expecting, so sure, this is fun.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this movie than I think you would guess upon like reading the back of the box or seeing a trailer or something like that. It's just as whimsical and quirky and full of this like childlike adventure as you would expect, but it's also like very serious in some points and like really harrowing, and there's like legitimate danger and emotional turmoil.
Yeah. Which is also interesting because the romance centers around 2 young teens.
Yeah, so they're 12, 13.
Yeah, they're kids, and in like a young teen romance story, you might not expect that type of like emotional weight or drama or danger in the film, but this has it all.
Yeah. So,
it's a good blanket fort.
Right? I made the right choice.
You did. Cool. Let's do a short synopsis, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, this movie, it's set in the 1960s, and it takes place on this tiny little island somewhere on the eastern seaboard. And it's about these...
New England. Somewhere.
Yeah, it's New Penzance is the name of the island. I assume it is fictional. And there's these 2 kids who live on the island. There's a girl who lives with her parents in this nice house. And then there's this boy who is an orphan. He's in a local boys' home. And right now he's at this scout camp. He's big into scouting. And these 2 kids have met. Yeah, the khaki scouts, yes. These 2 kids have met once, and they became pen pals, and they fell in love, and they have made this plan to run away together. And so the movie's about the 2 of them, like, the girl leaves her house, like, the boy leaves his camp, like, they meet out together in the woods, and it's about them, like, traveling across this island when everybody else is out there trying to find them. And there's this narrator who keeps appearing, this sort of omniscient narrator, like, speaking with words from the future. He's like, and this was the summer that New Penzance Island saw its most destructive hurricane of the entire 20th century. So there's also this impending storm that you know is going to crack down on everything. And that's the question, if like the kids are going to stay together and if everybody's going to be safe in this giant destructive storm.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I've been playing through Life is Strange again. Which is one of my favorite video games. But in that story, there is also a giant destructive storm about to hit the town.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was like, oh, okay. Storms everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they run away, and then it's not just the whole town, but it's like, it's the parents, and it's the scout troops. They're out there trying to find these people. Social services ends up coming to the island, and it's these kids trying to stay one step ahead and
Yes.
just be like, leave us alone. Like, let us.
We just want to be together.
Yeah, we just want to be together.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was interesting with this film, and we'll get more into it once we get into spoilers, that even though it is kind of framed around this romance, it's almost told as a mafia story or like a spy story, in the sense that they are two people from two organizations trying to leave, and they just won't let them leave, and like people are chasing them. Like it doesn't even matter that they ran away together, just the fact that they are trying to like leave the safety of where they're from. They're just like, don't you do that, you'll get in trouble. Like bad things will happen. You don't know what's out there. Like it just has this weird like, is this a mafia story? What is this?
You've got a really great point to this. And there is so much like secrecy and planning and clandestine meetings and all these complicated, like, this person needs to be here, and then we're going to do this, and then we talk to this person.
But
like,
can we trust them?
We
don't know who they are.
It is really tightly planned, like it is a heist movie.
Yeah.
The heist movie is just, I want to sneak my girlfriend out of her parents' house.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So I had a lot of fun with this. I'm glad we got to watch it.
Yeah.
Housekeeping.
Yes.
The Whatnauts.com is our website. You guys can check out more about us there. If you guys want to find the other podcasts that we do, you guys can find more info on our site or wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in the Whatnauts and you can find all of our shows right there. If you like what we do, Patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to the live streams of this, and you can see Melissa's cropped camera for yourself live as it happens.
Watch me change. Watch me grow.
Right now, Right now, the door has opened up, so I can at least like see your face, but you have to like letter box stuff, but it's like portrait, so it's still like
like I've been filmed on a smartphone.
yeah.
I'm coming to you in TikTok format.
Right. Live from TikTok. It's Melissa. So yeah, if you guys want to support us on Patreon, you guys can do that for as little as $1 a month. We also have exclusive content at our $3 tier. We recently did a patron-only exclusive episode of the Captain's Log, in which we did a fantasy movie draft, where we picked 5 different films, all that had nothing to do with one another, so that we could make a cinematic universe out of those 5 films.
Yes.
It was fun. Go check it out. That being said, I think that's it for housekeeping. Go check out our store. Go buy some merch. Whatnauts.com/store. You guys can pick up some stuff there. We also want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Christine, for helping us out. We love all of our patrons, but a big shout out to you two especially.
Thank you.
Okay. Spoilers. Here we go. Spoilers. Let's dive in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of want to start off with that observation that I made, that this is, it's not just a romance film. Like it has the typical whimsy that you would expect from a Wes Anderson movie, where I don't want to say the characters are deadpan, but there is this kind of very straightforward delivery of a lot of the lines, and stuff like that, and it just adds a certain like style and type of character to the
I think it can be deadpan, it can be dry, and everything is like very metered and very precise.
Yeah. I guess I hesitated on saying that because I don't mean to say that this is bland. Like, it's not a bland movie at all, but it is deadpan and stiff at times. But it has this like weird thing where it's not quite a romance, but it is. It's not quite a crime story, like a mafia thing, but it is. And then there's this like disastrous like drama. There's this big storm coming. There's like there's people chasing them. There's animals that die. They do kill a dog, which is never fun.
Yeah, I always forget that happens in this movie, and that's like one of the major crimes a movie can commit is to kill a dog.
It is the worst thing.
More than anything else.
Forget Thanos' snap. Yeah. You kill dogs.
Kill as many grandmas and nuns as you want, but if you touch one dog...
Right?
It's so
the grandmas
weird.
And nuns.
Not to hijack this from you. They kill this dog, but it's like just such a blip in the movie. Like, not in terms of the plot, but in like your own relationship to the movie. Like, there's so much going on that like you're not as affected by this dead dog as you would be by any other dead dog in any other movie.
Because I don't think we really see the dog that much before that.
The dog's not a character. The dog is a tool. The khaki scouts have this dog that's there to like sniff things and track things. We only see it like in that, in that role in one scene before the dog accidentally gets shot with an arrow.
Yeah. Which, funny enough, like that is one of the most like mafia mob story scenes in the film where it's like the enforcers roll up and they're like, we're here to take you back. He's just like, I don't want to go back. He's like, oh yeah? And then there's like this little small fight and we don't see it happen on screen, but we hear, I guess it's Suzy scream when they shoot the dog. And we don't know if it's on purpose or if it's on accident or what happened, but it happened. And yeah, like that is something you would see in a like mobster story. Which like on one hand it's like, I don't want to see that. Like, don't kill the dog. But then it's like, this is also really cool because I wasn't expecting this like mafia vibe.
Yeah, like it's kind of, it's interesting that the story like went for such a brutal hit among, it's just like in a field of 12-year-olds. Like the toughest weapon they have is a Boy Scout camp bow and arrow.
A field of 12-year-olds.
And I do like when the dog dies and Suzy and Sam are looking down at it and Suzy asks, was he a good dog? And Sam just says, who's to say?
Yeah, right.
But he didn't deserve to die like this.
It's so good. And then there's like, we see down the road that like same group of khaki scouts who are the more masculine ones, right? They are the enforcers, and they're playing
the
cards
of the khaki scouts.
It is like it's again, it's something you would see in a mafia story where they're sitting around playing cards
in an Italian restaurant,
drinking and stuff like that, and they're just like, maybe we should actually help him out. He's one of the boys. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, he's
We've never
one of
done
us.
right by this kid. Like, now's our chance. Like, all he wants is to run away with his girl. And they're all like, you can see they're also kind of impressed. Like, oh, Sam got a girlfriend? Because they're all 12-year-old boys.
He does.
They're like, well, if he managed to get a girlfriend, like, we got to support him in this.
Yeah, it's wild. And then the whole thing to like break him out of solitary in air quotes,
Yeah.
right? He's at Bruce Willis's like trailer or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this like weird influence in this movie that I really did not expect, but really enjoyed it because of that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual romance aspect of the film. What did you think?
I like this one. This is one of the reasons I've come back to this movie a couple times. One thing we haven't mentioned about these kids is that they both have these mental problems. Like Sam has gone through this trauma. He was orphaned, I think, when he was like 7 or 8 or something. He's lived in these foster homes. He kind of acts out, he'll like stay real quiet as other boys tease him. And then suddenly he's like beating them up, like he's jumped on them and is punching them.
Yeah.
He slept walk and like lit a doghouse on fire in his sleep. I believe that dog was fine. There's only one dead dog in this movie.
There with the dog.
Yeah. He's got like him and the dog are sitting there watching the fires. He's like, what? In this little flashback. And then Suzy also has this sort of mental problem where she also like can really lash out at people. She gets really angry. Like the first time they meet, her hand is covered in bandages. And he asks her like, what happened to your hand? And she says, I lost my temper at myself. I punched the mirror. And she says it just like plain and simple, like, these are just the facts. I don't know, that just happened.
Yeah. And then we get to see her actually lash out at one of her classmates. So we do get to actually see it eventually and be like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And then I think, I don't remember if that comes before or after, but there's this scene when they're taking inventory of all of her stuff, and he kind of pisses her off at something he says, and then she's just like, well, we can't be friends then. And it's, looking back on the film, it's kind of one of those things of like, uh-oh, he kind of started to make her mad there. That's not good. Don't want him getting beat up.
Stabbed in the back with lefty scissors.
Right? Yeah.
There's, I like that aspect about it, that these are these kind of, especially for like 1965, like nobody knows how to deal with an emotionally troubled youth. Nobody knows what they're doing. So, and like they're both like, it's this girl, and they live in this little island, this tiny island. It's like 13 miles long. And it's just the girl and her parents and like 3 little brothers. And then it's Sam in this foster home with the scout troops. Like nobody has any resources. Nobody knows what to do. Like the best that Suzy's parents can do is like, they have a pamphlet called like Dealing with Your Troubled Child. Yeah. It's like, this is all the resource you have in 1965. You have a pamphlet. So nobody knows what to do with these kids. These kids don't know what to do with themselves. They're volatile to some degree, but they find each other. And they're on each other's level. Like they understand each other. They are each other's port in a storm. They're like,
you don't belong. I don't belong.
Yeah.
Let's go not belong somewhere together.
Exactly. I like that element of it, that they're specifically running away from something and to something. And it's just this sort of folly of the times. I think that's also why this really works as a period piece. Like you are seeing kids that just, there's nothing there for them. Like the resources aren't available. Like they kind of are out there on their own. They are just foraging for help.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we can also see that in the parents too.
Yes.
They don't know what to do or why it's happening. But they also have their own set of problems that I think as a viewer of the film, we can kind of see like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. Like you're not dealing with your own problems. And so then you're probably like, I mean, I would assume that they are like, because they are hiding that stuff, maybe they're being a little bit more strict on the kids as a result.
Yeah.
They'll be like, hey, do as I say, not as I do. Even though they're not really addressing it. But
yeah, and Suzy's parents are they're both lawyers and they both do law work. They live all the way out here, so I don't know if they're doing all this law work by mail or what. This doesn't New Penzance Island doesn't seem like it's like a central seat of the state judicial system. So I don't know what they're up to.
They might be like the only two lawyers on the island.
Yeah, and they live in this massive, sprawling house that has all these levels, and all these doorways and rooms, and like they call to each other like they're yelling across the house, or they have a megaphone and they're yelling across the house. Yeah. So she comes from this sort of distant, like desperate place where she doesn't have like a great, like she's provided for, but it's not like cozy. It's not like it's a nice house. Her 3 little brothers seem like they're having a good time, but it is like, that's not the best, most supportive environment for a troubled child to be in. Right. And their folks don't know what to do with her. And then I don't know if this was Wes Anderson just casting actors he liked, just casting who he wanted to cast. But her parents are played by Bill Murray and Frances McDormand, who are both older people. And I don't know if that's also supposed to play into the plot of this. Like, oh, they had kids late in life. Like they're aging, like they're getting tired, and then to have a child that may be so high maintenance, that's not something they're able to keep up with. Like they're too set in their
more.
Yeah, and then I don't know if those 3 boys are triplets or what. They're all like 3. They're like practically undistinguishable for each other. Just like 3, like just 3 boys, 3 assorted boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe they're like already so set in their like adult ways and their adult patterns, and they can't like put themselves on a child's level so much anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's fascinating, but I think the romance that starts to grow between Sam and Suzy is I mean, however misguided it might be, it's interesting to watch.
Yes.
Because it is also that, like, this is like the first time that those things are happening for them, so they are discovering it all, of just like how to act, what is appropriate, what's not, all of that stuff. Like there's the one scene where they're on the beach and Sam puts his hands on her boobs because she says it's okay, but it's still this like awkward scene of like, well, yeah, they're both consenting, but they're not adults. But
yeah, like they are just figuring things out. They both really like each other and they're on each other's levels. Yeah. I think she says like, you can touch, like they're dancing with each other on the beach, and she's like, you can touch my boobs if you want, and he does. And she says, I think they are going to grow as I grow older. And he's like, okay.
He's like, okay, sure.
Cool.
I don't know how this works.
Yeah. Like, this is what I like about this romance, is that they're kind of play acting at adult things, but there are no good adult role models in this show in this movie for relationships. Suzy's parents seem like it's more of like an arrangement. Like it doesn't seem like a loving family. It's not like a hateful, destructive family. It just seems like our parents were both like, well, it would be nice if we managed a home together and raised some children together. Like it seems like very kind of business.
They had something at one point.
Yes.
But it's kind of died down, and then they're just like, all right, well, we're together now, so
well, it's about time we settled down. Yeah. And Sam's parents are dead. He lives in this foster home with like who knows how many other boys. Like the couple that runs the home seems very nice, but I don't know if that's exactly also a good model of a relationship, how much time he gets to spend with them. His camp counselor
and they also
is single.
Don't want him because he also is kind of problematic. Like at a certain point, they're just like, well, we're not his actual parents, so deal with it.
It's kinder than that. Like it's after he runs away and the scout troop is like calling the home, and they have no idea like he's in a foster home scenario. Like those people was just written down under the parent/guardian section on the form, so they're like, oh, I guess those are his parents. And they're like, no, he's part of this foster home that we run, and he's had a troubled past, and now that we hear that this has happened, we don't think we can invite him back to our home. He is too much trouble. We kind of owe it to the other boys to, like, put more attention on them. Like, he's sucking up too much attention. We got to be fair to the other boys.
Yeah. But yeah, like, it's interesting to watch because especially at the end of it, it's really not about the romance. It's about just finding a place to belong.
Yes.
Because at the end of the film, they're on top of that big church, looking like they're about to jump off into the water, but they're not sure how deep it is. So it's like, hey, this might actually be the end of the line.
Yeah.
And maybe we just kill ourselves. We don't know. If we survive, great. But, but then Bruce Willis's character kind of comes out, and like the kind of climactic thing is that he's like, hey, what if I adopt you? Like, what if I make you my, like, legal child? I don't know. But then when that happens, Sam looks up at him like, you would really do that? And then he looks to Suzy without saying anything, and he just looks at her to be like, is that okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. And then they're like, all right, cool. And then the big lightning strike and all that stuff. But like, at the end of the day, that's all they wanted. Like, somewhere where they felt like they fit in.
I think that's perfect. And what I also appreciate about that moment is that by this time they have married each other. It's not a legally binding situation. They just, like, one of the kids at the camp is like, oh, my cousin is like the supply chief at another local camp. And so they go to Jason Schwartzman and he's like, well, I can't legally do this, but I know all the words in the mumbo jumbo for the ceremony. And this is ceremonially very important to you. So they consider themselves husband
more
and
about
wife.
how you feel about it.
Yes. So I do like that he's like, well, before I get adopted, I have to check with my wife.
It's good. It's good. I wanted to mention a certain scene when I was watching this. One of the very first scenes kind of not skewed my perspective, but made me try and look at the film a certain way. And I don't know if that metaphor was fully there, unless you like really, really dig and try to make connections that I don't know are there or not. But I wanted to run it by you to see if you caught it or knew something about it, since you've seen this multiple times. At the start, they're going through Suzy's house, and they are showing all the rooms, all the people, all the stuff. You know, they're doing the opening credits and stuff like that. And it's very, very Wes Anderson. But they get to a scene where it's the three young boys, and they put a record on, and they start playing it. And the first thing it basically says is like, hey, we're going to show you what an orchestra is by playing all the parts individually. They each have the same theme, but they're all just slightly different. So I was like, all right, I get that. Variations on a theme. And so that was like, I wonder if that's what this film is about. Like, each character, even though they're different or in different situations or stages of life, I wonder if they are all variations on the same theme, just like in orchestra would be. And that they are, like, that's how the whole town operates or something like that. And I don't know how true it is. I didn't find something that was like, oh, that's it. That's the thing. Variations on a theme.
Yeah, like they're not exactly all running on parallel tracks to each other.
Yeah. So I mean, did you notice that? Is that something that you've thought about?
I think that musical record the kids are playing is both just something of the times. It's just like a quirky old historical piece Wes Anderson liked, as he is wont to do. But the way it is, it's like, we are playing you, here are all the woodwinds, here's all the brass, here's all the strings. Like, they're playing each section, and it's like, and then everything's going to come together into one full orchestral piece where everything's playing at once. And to me, that spoke to just how disjointed this narrative is, especially because this all takes place in like a very small geographical area.
Right.
You know, an orchestra is too. An orchestra, they're all in one room, and it's like, we're all sectioned off. And we're all speaking separately, and then we're going to come and speak together. And that's the way it is. Like, here's Suzy's house, here's the camp, here's the kids. And like, even like, you know, the counselor and the kids are on like different levels with each other. And like, you see, you know, there's Bruce Willis out there talking with the family, but he's not really on the parents' level. And then in comes social services. Like, everything's very separate and sectioned off. And even if people are together, like, they're not on the same level. And it's as the movie progresses that everything gets closer and everything is united, and they are all physically together and all like closer to being emotionally on the same wavelength. They go from being separate instruments to being an orchestra there at the end of the movie.
Yeah, because I was wondering if each like major character, like their theme song, so to speak, right, was like, Sam is the woodwinds and Suzy is the trumpets or the brass, and Bruce Willis's character is the drums and percussion or something like that. Like, I was wondering if it was going to be something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, I should pay attention to, like, when they're on screen, what song is playing, what does it sound like, and stuff like that. But I ended up liking the story so much that I would get caught up in the story and forget to, like, pay attention to what song was on. And so, like, yeah, like, I never really noticed, like, for sure if that's what they were going for. But it is kind of this thing. Like, we did mention that, hey, these children have these issues that no one really knows how to deal with. It seems like all the parents and adults also have issues that they don't necessarily know how to deal with, but they might be stuck in their adult ways of life. So maybe it works, but I don't know. I don't want to read too much into that if nothing is there.
That's an interesting angle. I wasn't thinking of it like that. One thing, like, I thought,
it's the first thing you hear, and then at the end, it also kind of mimics that of like, thank you for listening to our orchestra, blah blah blah.
Yeah, they play that over like the end credits. Like the actual like composer of the movie does a variant on that old music instructional record, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
One thing I realized during this watch is that you've got all of these kids who are all like, you know, the ones we get to know, the ones that actually have speaking roles are probably like 13 or 14 at the most. And then you have all of these adults who are probably like all at least 35 or 40 and many in their like 50s. Like, there's such a gap of age in between them. There's nobody our age in this movie. It goes from 13 to 40.
Yeah.
And so you're at these very different points in your life that do kind of echo each other. Like, kids are starting to figure it out. And then I feel like you have these adults that are like, okay, hi, I'm settled down. I don't feel settled. Like, they've developed these patterns. They're like, well, I have a career and I have things that give me purpose in life and I'm forging these relationships, but it still feels like, shouldn't I have this more figured out by now? Like, something's missing. Like, you're sort of going through the second phase of like, is this it? How much am I in control of my life now? Can I change things if I want to change them? Am I stuck like this forever?
I wonder if that has to do with it being in the 60s, like shortly after World War II, of like the adults who are in their like 40s and 50s are now the ones that were off at war and survived. So they weren't having kids when they were in their 20s and stuff like that. So now they're having them older, and that's why there's kind of this like age gap.
That is a good point. I wasn't thinking about that historically, how in like 1965, there probably are a lot of like people in their 20s and 30s that are like out doing something else. They're not living a little quiet life on an island. That's not where they are. They're in Vietnam, or they're protesting, or making it big out in the expanding business world, or something like that. That is a good historical point to it. I just thought it was interesting that we have these young people that don't have control yet. And then we have these older people that have fallen into like such patterns that they're like, am I also stuck here? How much control do I have anymore?
Yeah. That's a good point though.
Like there's nobody at the right stage of life to be like, I'm proactive about things. I can go out there and get things done. Except maybe for Jason Schwartzman. Jason Schwartzman, I think, is the most well-adjusted adult in the entire cast. Like, he's not the best guy, but, like, he seems happy and confident with his life in a way I don't know if anybody else is.
Did you have a favorite scene or favorite moment in the film?
I really like the turning point that you mentioned earlier, where it's like all the scout kids like playing cards up in their treehouse, and there's one of them that's just like staring out the window, and he just bangs his hand on the treehouse, and the joke is that it's so poorly constructed that wall just falls away.
Off. Yeah.
And he like pounds his fist, and he turns around and he says, "Damn us."
Damn
He's
us.
like, we owe it to Scout Shikuski to help him out.
He's
like,
one of the boys, damn it.
Like, that's like the turning point of the film that goes from like the scouts are after Sam and Suzy to the scouts are with Sam and Suzy. And we're going to see if they can all turn the tide on this.
Yeah. That's a good moment. I think for me, some of the best moments and the funniest is when they go to the other scout camp. That's just like the command center.
Yes.
Like it's so ridiculous that they're like sneaking in and no one notices them, even though they're just like right there in plain sight. Yeah. But then just like how everything works in that camp, like that is a moment in the film that is not a romance. It's not really a crime story. It's more of like a military drama. And it's really only for that one scene though, or like that one like section.
Well, there is this through line with the khaki scouts that they are so serious about everything. Yeah. They are more of a military regiment than they are just scouts for fun.
Yeah. But like when you see the khaki scouts at the start, like I just kind of chalked it up to Wes Anderson doing his thing. Like that was it. Like okay, they're super serious. Here's Edward Norton being like overly serious about something that's like, come on, it's not that serious.
It's like, it's okay that boy's kerchief isn't tied correctly.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But then when they get to this other camp, it's just like a whole nother world. Like it's the camp, it seems at certain times like it's 10 times larger. There's like over 100 something campers and stuff. Like this seems like the real deal of like this is the real camp. We just have a small little outpost, right? But then that they take everything so serious that they have a church tent, they have a medical tent, they have the like command center that that only certain people are allowed in. Like, it's so funny to see that. Yeah. and then the scene where Sam goes back to get the binoculars, beats up the kid that got stabbed again, runs away, and then everyone is chasing him, and he just goes out onto the capture the flag field.
Yeah.
And you can just see him. He just goes out, and then he starts to circle around, and everyone is just following him.
Yeah.
And they're just going to run in a circle, aren't they? This is so dumb, but I love it.
And it's raining. This is the part of the movie where it is starting to rain and storm really badly, and he gets struck by lightning, which is not very plot relevant, but it is a neat touch.
It's just, he gets himself up on these rocks, and he's like, I'm gonna make my last stand here, and he's like, hurrah, and then he sticks his little flag up, which makes me think he almost did that on purpose. Like he was trying to plan something, because he picked up that flag. I mean, maybe all it was going to be the symbolism of him sticking in the flag,
think so,
but he lifts it up and then gets struck by lightning.
It's such an interesting juxtaposition in this movie that the mental health of the kids is treated pretty seriously, and then Sam gets struck by lightning and he's just covered in soot
joke.
and wipes his glasses off.
Yeah, it's so dumb. So I speaking of beating up the one kid that got stabbed with the lefty scissors, I was actually kind of hoping he would have been more of an antagonist.
I really liked him,
in the film. Yeah, it worked out fantastically for what it was, because one thing we haven't really mentioned in this film is the pacing. The pacing of this film is really fast. It just moves constantly. They don't they don't linger on stuff for too long.
And I
but
think that's something
because of that. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say I think that's something Wes Anderson is good at, is having real fast-paced clippy stories, but something about his style doesn't make them feel jarring or fast-paced. I think because he uses within his framing so much negative space and little bits of time of characters just okay, we're really gonna watch Suzy unbuckle her purse and take something out. There's lots of little moments of room to breathe visually and sound wise, or characters will sort of stop and think for a moment after they say something. Oh, I think he's good at balancing out how fast his plots are to make sure that the whole movie doesn't feel super fast.
Yeah, it works out really well. But I think because of that, we there's certain characters that don't get enough shine.
Yeah.
Right? I wish that kid that got stabbed came back more and more and was more of an antagonist in the film. Because there's not really a true antagonist in my mind, besides just this
storm.
I mean, it's this storm, but I think you could chalk up both the storm and the parental units, the adults, as just this impending doom.
Yes,
they're going to get captured and brought back to society. There is this storm that is coming, but I don't see that necessarily as the main villain or the main antagonist. It's things that are out there and they're coming, but I don't know. And I kind of wished there was a character who was just even at the end of the film, it's he was the bad guy.
I can see that. I think this movie's got this movie does have enough of kind of a fairy tale aura to it. I agree with you. It would be kind of interesting to see a traditional this is the villain, not just the antagonist, but the villain.
Right. Yeah. And maybe it could be something oh, he used to have a crush on Suzy last year, and they dated once, or they held hands once, and that was it. Now he's just you're taking my girl or something, But yeah, it's strange.
Something that...
Go ahead.
Okay, my turn. Something I've always thought is interesting about this movie, and time after time, I'm still not exactly sure how to read it, is the fact that this little island they're on has got a lot of Native American heritage to it. And like the
Don't
scout
see one
troop
of them.
has got like a lot of like Native American like imagery in it,
Yeah.
you know, like it looks like there's scouting newsletters called Indian Corn. And like, you know, well, Sam wants to trace the old Chickchaw harvest track across the island. Like there's all these old vestiges of this native culture on the island. And that's all it is. It's just like remnants of something. Like there's I don't think we meet a native character. That's not really talked about what their role is in like the modern times. Is there anybody of that culture left, or is it just these old antiques? And this is always I think it's an interesting thing to put in here. And I don't know if this is just the Wes Anderson commentating on the sort of like appropriation we had, especially like during the time of like the Lone Ranger and Tonto and let's play cowboys and Indians, where you just have all these props that have like no cultural interaction whatsoever. If that's just him looking back on like culture in that time. But it also makes me think about the kids have got all these, there's all these trappings of successful adult life and no successful adults. Like the kids are trying to do this big adult grand gesture. They're like, we're going to get married. And I'm like, do we have a successful marriage in this story? And you look at Suzy's parents, not that they're dysfunctional, but they're not, that's not a grand romantic tale. Like it seems very like, it's an arrangement. Like they're just going about the business of, well, we run this home and family now. And they have this big, beautiful house, but it's, you know, it's not a sign of like success. It seems like it's a hassle. Like they have to yell with a megaphone and like stick their head out the window. And like, you know, the wife looks up and then the husband looks down because he's on the second floor. And then they yell at each other through the windows outside.
Yeah.
Like there's all these symbols of like successful adult life. And there's no real evidence of that actually happening.
Yeah. So you live in the Midwest. I live on the East Coast. So I'm closer to where this takes place.
Yes.
I would say we have a lot of the same stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of history on the East Coast because that's kind of where we first colonized and stuff like that. But our history is that we kind of pushed the Indians out. Like, there's stuff that is named after them. There's still stuff like, oh, you can go to the Choctaw Trail, or here's Algonquian Park, or stuff like that. And you don't see that stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you see the stuff that I just mentioned. Like, things are named after them, but we don't have reservations. Like, there's no, like, this is an Indian land or a Native American, section, right?
Yeah.
That's stuff that I've only seen, like, Midwest to, like, mountains.
Really?
And stuff like that. Yeah, and, like, out in the Pacific Northwest. I haven't seen much of that. I'm sure it exists somewhere.
Yes.
But it's not as prevalent as it is in, like, the western part of the United States.
I think there's some areas like I've driven through Oklahoma, which seems to have a lot more of a vibrant, ongoing native culture that you can go and interact with, and you can see interact with the community and like what it's doing now. I think that is something that varies from area to area.
Yeah.
Oh, I just always thought it was interesting in this film that there's deliberately like all of these tokens, I guess, of this native culture, and like that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's because this movie was made in 2012 is when it came out. So yeah, like it's. I think we can look back on the film now and be like, yeah, it's strange that there's not some kind of Native American presence besides the names.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the same time, like growing up in that stuff, like that's kind of what it's like. It's like things are named after it, but they're not here.
Mm.
So, it's what we did. It's our history.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I've just always thought about if this is meant to have any kind of impact or relation to the actual plot narrative of the thing, or if it is this sort of cultural backdrop to it. Wes Anderson is a director really known for his styling of things. What was your favorite like style or aesthetic point in this movie?
I can tell you my least favorite thing.
What'd you not like?
The font that they use, that like curly cursive stuff.
I like the font because
it works as the title of the film, but in the credits and all that stuff, it's illegible. It's terrible. The designer in me is just like, pick a different font. This is awful. Don't do this.
No, I like the font because that is exactly how kids would have written at that time. We're looking at a time
that's
back
what it's
in the
meant to mimic.
Like cursive is more prevalent in schools. It's more average for a kid to know cursive, and especially like you look at Suzy and she's into such like whimsical, fantastical things, like drawing an M where like the part of it is this big spiral. Like, oh, that's exactly what she would do, is like make this as fancy as possible.
Yeah,
I did that when I was her age.
I understand what you're saying, and I wholeheartedly agree that that's probably why they picked it. Like, it fits that kind of aesthetic. You just have to decide whether you want to stick with that aesthetic and make it illegible, or pick something that like is more readable. Like, especially the end credits. Where like they're just scrolling through nonstop. I can't read a single name there, and I know that's maybe more of a nitpick because a lot of people don't really read the credits or stuff like that. But it's just like, if I had worked on that film and my name was in this like cursive font that no one can read, I'm like, then what's the point? Why am I even named in there? You can't read this.
I think it works for this, not just because it connects back to the narrative, but because like that is what an audience expects out of Wes Anderson, which is like extremely stylized things. Yeah. And I think he's got like enough of like a solid fan base of like fans who'll watch the movies over and over again, or he's very critically well received, that he knows the movies will also be watched several times. So it's like you'll maybe you won't read it the first time, but you know by time 3 or 4 you will be able to see it. And I'm like, I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times, so I can't tell you you're wrong. I did it.
Yeah, I do have to say, I think my favorite thing in the film, I think was actually the opening credits sequence where it is like exploring that big mansion and. Like you can see that like it's rooms behind rooms, or you can see a doorway and 2 rooms on the side, and the people are in that certain section there. Like it's very Wes Anderson, which is a terrible way to describe it, but it's very.
I think we'll get it. Yeah.
Organized and boxy and square, and it's something that no one else does quite like Wes Anderson.
It's like he makes all of his movies a dollhouse.
Yeah, and it's neat because like the camera is just constantly rolling and moving and all, like, but it's not this like free form movement. It's not necessarily following a certain character. It's just showing all the facets of this house. And it's like, that's really cool. I like that. So that was my favorite bit.
One of my favorite little stylistic things in this movie that is stuck with me. Like, I love this about this movie, and I keep paying more attention to it every time I see it, is all of Suzy's books. When she runs away, she's bringing with her all of these like young adult fantasy books, like kind of in the vein of like A Wrinkle in Time or something. And these are all completely made up for the film. Like they've written, like she reads them aloud a lot. And so all those excerpts were like written for the script. All the covers were illustrated for this movie, but they all seem perfect. They seem, me being a child of the 90s, I don't exactly know, but I remember books like that still hanging around my school libraries. I remember books of that kind. And they seem like so perfect to fit in that genre of that era. Like they're just the right amount of like there's the whimsy of them and just like the kind of mystery of them, and the allure seems perfect for her character. My favorite moment in this movie is she's telling Sam about the books she likes to read. And she's like, well, I like, kind of mystical, magical stories, female protagonists, but not all the time. And she's like, I like stories about orphans making, a way for themselves out there in the world. And she looks at Sam and she's like, I wish I was an orphan too. Your lives just seem more special. And Sam takes a beat and he just looks at her and he says, he says, I love you, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I didn't realize those books were all made for the film, because I think in the end credits they show them all. There's like a screen where like the book covers are there and they give you the titles and stuff. Again, I couldn't read the titles because of the stupid font, but it was there. So that made me think they were real books. I'm just like, oh, like I could go find this if I really wanted to. So
I don't think so.
They're fake though.
Yeah.
Interesting development.
I wish they were real. I would really love to read The Disappearance of the Sixth Grade or By the Light of Seven Matchsticks.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, nothing else that I can really think of. Yeah, I think we've covered most of the film. Do you have something else that you want to talk about?
Oh, I'm glad you liked this movie.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
I liked it. It was good.
Very pretty to look at. Lots of nuance. Excellent use of Bob Balaban.
Yeah,
like more people just need to put Bob Balaban in things.
Speaking of him, so I recognized him, but I feel like I've seen him in something else. He has a face that looks super familiar, but I don't recognize anything. I've heard some of the things that he's like directed or whatever, but I've never seen them.
I know him from the Christopher Guest movies, like A Mighty Wind and Best in Show. He's really good in those. I love those movies.
Huh. Because I feel like I've seen him in something. Or I've seen his picture somewhere. I don't know. But then I look at all the stuff that he's like written or directed or he's been an actor in. And I'm just like, I've heard of a couple of these.
He's kind of a journeyman. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. There you go.
This is our message to you folks. Go out there and look up Bob Balaban. His name's also just fun to say.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Melissa, if you had to recommend some other stuff to people who liked this film, what else might you recommend?
I'm actually going to recommend a book I've read that I think fits the aesthetic of the books that Suzy is reading.
Okay.
I think which might be a reason why I really like them, because they remind me of these books I would read as a kid. There's an author named Daniel Manus Pinkwater, and his name would appear slightly different on different books, like Daniel M. Pinkwater or D. Manus Pinkwater, right? It's a weird one, which is why I still remember it like 20 years later. But he wrote this book I loved as a kid, and I've been meaning to track it down and buy a copy. It's called Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars. And it does have that same sort of trippy, like painted cover of like a normal boy and then like an alien boy and some space stuff. It is about like this normal boy named Leonard who goes to a school, and he's, kind of chubby and he's picked on and he doesn't like it there. And then all of a sudden this other kid comes to school, this other new kid. And he's like, oh, thank goodness, another new kid. Maybe they'll take some of the heat off of me. And it seems like Alan's really cool. And then he's like, "Sup, guys, I'm Alan. I'm from Mars." And they're like, "You're not from Mars? What are you talking about?" So it seems he walks in and he seems like he's going to be cool. And then instantly, the second he opens his mouth, he's an outcast. And so him and Leonard are the two school outcasts. And it's just about Leonard getting to know this boy and like, is he for real? Is he from Mars? Or is this just all an elaborate story he's cooked up? And like they go on these little adventures together and like they go to this occult bookstore and they look at these books on like developing psychic powers, and they're like trying to develop their own psychic powers. And they do slip into an alternate universe briefly at the end. But then Leonard comes back and he's like, "Yeah, but that still doesn't tell me whether or not Alan is from Mars." He wrote another book called Lizard Music about this kid who's like, his parents go on vacation and they're like, "Okay, teenage sister, watch your 12-year-old brother." Sister's like, "Okay, cool." And the second the parents are gone, she's like, "Well, I'm taking off with my boyfriend for the next week, so you're on your own." So it's just about this 12-year-old boy who's like, "Okay." It's like a Home Alone scenario.
Okay.
And he's like going to the store for himself. He's like, "I can eat whatever food I want. I can stay up as late as I want and watch whatever I want on TV." And he stays up so late that he gets past like the news and the infomercials and all these weird like public access programs. And he finds like this sort of like American Bandstand like music program, but it's all lizards. And it's like, "Live from Lizard City, it's all the lizard bands. Welcome to lizard music." And he's like, "What is this? Like, are these guys in costumes? This is a joke. Is this like the band's gimmick?"
Go-war.
Yeah. And he's watching it like night after night, and he's like, "Is this real? These look like real lizard creatures." And it's about him, and like I forget how he does it, but he does also slip through an alternate dimension and find the lizard world.
As one does.
Yeah.
Wild. What kind of crazy books were you reading back in the day?
This guy also wrote a book called The Hoboken Chicken Emergency, where it's this kid in Hoboken, New Jersey, and it's like Thanksgiving, and his parents are like, "Oh no, the turkey we bought, like, oh, like it's rotten, or we cooked it and it got burned or something." They're like, "Here, go to the store, go to any store you need to, get us another turkey. We have a lot of family coming in, get us the biggest turkey you can." And the kid goes out there and he comes back and he's like, "Well, I couldn't find a turkey, but I bought a 6-foot live chicken, and it's just this giant chicken that just walks into their house like, baka." And it's just about them. It's just about them dealing with a really big chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I wanted to take my recommendations in a very different direction.
Yeah.
One of the pacing of this film and just how fast paced it was really reminded me of the pacing of Rian Johnson's film Brick.
Brick is good.
It is good. We have an episode of the Whatnauts podcast on that. You guys can go look that up on our website. But yeah, it's this like crime noir detective story set in a modern day high school, starring a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it is just this fast-paced, hard-hitting crime story. And it's not for children. There's but it's just the like pacing of Moonrise Kingdom or Moonlight Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise. It reminds me a lot of this film, where it is just breakneck speeds the entire time. Of course, we kind of mentioned that even though this film is nonstop, there are those moments for you to kind of breathe in Moonrise Kingdom because of like the awkward line delivery and stuff like that. This does not have that. This is just nonstop the entire time. But it reminded me of that. So go check it out because it's a good film.
Yeah, I haven't seen this since 2009, so I don't remember it very well, but I remember that I did really like it.
Yeah. Came out back in 2005, and I think it was Rian Johnson's first film, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right. And this isn't like a teen movie that has like crime and noir aspects to it. No, it is a full-on noir mystery that just happens to star a teenager and be set in a high school.
Yeah. Not for kids, indeed.
No.
But yeah, go check that stuff out. Next up, though, we're gonna be, or what would be, our pitches. We're kind of switching something up for this next week. Next week, we are inviting Ignacio Rojas onto the show. He is one of our co-hosts of our other podcast, Crossplay. And he is going to be joining us, and we're going to be watching the film Your Name, the animated film. This is one of his favorite films, and both Melissa and I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I've been meaning to. It just hasn't made it onto any of my pitch lists for this show. And he was on this Patreon bonus episode with us where I'm like, oh, Kyle hasn't seen Moonrise Kingdom. I should pitch it. And Ignacio's like, neither of you have seen Your Name? Well, I'm just coming on the podcast and we're going to do it.
Yeah. So that is what we are doing next week. The anime film Your Name. Is it Your Name or Call Me by Your Name?
No, that's a very different film. It is Your Name.
I was going to say.
Call Me by Your Name is the one with Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer in France with the Sufjan Stevens music.
No, beyond me. I don't know.
They're so different.
What if we get there next week and we had watched that one?
He's like, oh no, that's what I meant. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so this is the anime film from 2017 called Your Name. I think this won a bunch of Oscars and awards and stuff like that.
Very well regarded.
And the people that made it, I think also just put out another film recently called Weathering with You.
Yes.
So go check that one out too if you haven't already. But yeah, next week is Your Name. The week after that, don't forget, is the end of the month. So we are going to be doing part 2 of our Venture Brothers coverage. So be watching seasons 3 and 4, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks for that one.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess that's it. I guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Next week, Your Name. Melissa, what is your name? Where can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, my name, as you remembered from mere seconds ago, is Melissa. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit, which is WILKWIT.
And you can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. And if you guys want to find our show online, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. You guys can stay up to date that way. Yeah, go like, share, subscribe. I think we're at 57 subscribers on YouTube.
What?
So we're slowly climbing up. If we can make that 60 and beyond, that would be amazing.
Come to Beyond with us. It's a great channel. You can see me in a variety of sizes. I'm trying to wear makeup more often. There
you go. I'm usually the same size and I don't wear makeup, so I'm like the exact opposite.
You also own the same design of hoodie in 2 different colors. So you are very often
they are different.
How are they different?
One is KCVA, one is KCNC. Kodachrome, Virginia, and Kodachrome, North Carolina. So,
okay. You have more or less the same. You have like 5 shirts.
I do. But yeah, we'll be back next week with your name, go subscribe to us on YouTube, all of that stuff. We will see you then. This has been episode 94 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you guys thought of Moonrise Kingdom down in the comments below. And in the meantime, go subscribe to our YouTube channel right up here. We are almost at 60 subscribers at the time I'm recording this. So if you're watching this years down the road, hopefully we have a lot more than that. Who knows? Also, go watch one of our other videos right down there because we got a bunch of other podcasts for you to check out covering all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that would help us out a ton. We will see you guys next time. Bye.